The grand hall of the Galactic Council was full of noise and laughter. Tall alien leaders sat on golden chairs, their strange bodies glowing under the soft lights. They wore expensive robes and jewelry made from rare minerals found on distant planets. In the center of the room stood a large round table. Around it sat the leaders of the most powerful alien empires. There were the Zorvacs with their sharp teeth and blue skin, the Vekrians with long necks and golden eyes, the Turoks strong and heavy, like walking mountains. Today's meeting was not serious. It was a day for jokes and stories. High Chancellor Zorvac stood up. His voice was deep and slow. "My friends," he said, spreading his arms wide, "let us speak of the humans." The hall filled with laughter again. "Yes, the humans," shouted General Krell of the Turoks, "are soft ones. The weaklings, the tiny apes from that blue planet." A huge screen lit up on the wall. It showed old videos of human colonies from 100 years ago. Small farming towns, poor technology, humans wearing simple clothes, holding old rifles. The aliens laughed. "Harder, they call themselves warriors," sneered Lady Velra of the Vekrians. "I've seen stronger children on my homeworld." "They write myths," Zorvac said, smiling. "Old war stories, tales of their victories, they call it. HFY. Humanity, something something, I forget the words. Humanity. Fuck yeah," whispered one council member, trying not to laugh. The room exploded with noise. Even the guards standing near the doors smiled. "Such foolish pride," said Admiral Zek from the Core Empire. "If they ever try to fight us, it will be a short war." "Do they even have ships that can fly across the galaxy?" asked another leader. "No," Zorvac answered. "They are still a small race. 1 or 2 little colonies. Barely a fleet. They can't even protect their own borders." General Krell growled. Everyone nodded. They believed the same thing. Humans were weak, slow, unimportant, but deep. Under the council hall, in a dark control room, an alien technician stared at his screen. His face turned pale green. His hands shook. "Esther," he said into his headset. No one answered. The technician ran from the room, his feet slapping against the metal floor. Up in the council chamber, the jokes continued. The screen now showed human festivals, humans dancing in streets, humans singing songs of victory from past wars. "They pretend to be brave," said Lady Velra, laughing again. "But when real war comes, they will run." The doors to the chamber burst open. The technician stumbled inside, gasping for air. "High Chancellor," he shouted. "Urgent report." Zorvac frowned. "Speak, technician. Do not waste our time." The technician fell to his knees, still breathing hard. "Multiple energy signatures. Near the outer rim. Unknown ships. Coming fast." The council went silent. "How many ships?" asked Admiral Zek. Standing up, the technician's eyes widened. "Too many to count, sir. Dozens, maybe hundreds." A cold wind seemed to pass through the hall. The laughter stopped. "What species?" asked General Krell, his voice low. We believe they are human ships." Silence. Then someone laughed again. A nervous, weak laugh. "Impossible," Zorvac said. "Humans don't have ships like that." More council members stood up, looking at each other with confused faces. "Are you sure of your data?" Admiral Zek demanded. The technician nodded. Quickly, "Yes, sir," confirmed by 3 sensors. "The human ships. They're moving fast, heading straight for council space." Another officer ran in with a data pad. "New report. An alien outpost near the outer rim has gone dark. No contact for 2 hours." Zorvac's face grew dark. "Which outpost?" "Station X12, sir." That was a major listening post. Heavily guarded, it had powerful shields and turrets. "No distress signal?" asked Lady Velra. "None, ma'am." Admiral Zek stepped forward. "We need to activate defense fleets now." Zorvac nodded. "Do it. And prepare the council's personal guards." Another officer ran in. "Sir, we're getting a live transmission from Human Command." Everyone turned to the big screen. The image flickered. Static. Then a human face appeared. A young woman in a black uniform. Her eyes were cold. Her voice was calm but strong. "This is Admiral Reyes of the Terran Defense Fleet. To the Galactic Council, this is your only warning. You mocked us. You laughed at us. You attacked our colonies. Now we are here." The screen went black. Silence again. No one spoke. Some council members sat down, their faces pale. General Krell slammed his fist on the table. "Send our fleets. Crush them." Admiral Zek shook his head slowly. "You don't understand. Humans don't give warnings. Unless they're already here." Outside the council planet, dozens of human ships dropped out of faster than light. Travel, The sky began to burn. The sky over the council planet turned red dot from the ground. Alien citizens stared upward. They watched as fireballs appeared high in the atmosphere. Trails of smoke followed each one. The people pointed and whispered. Some began to scream. On the council defense screens, dozens of human warships showed up on radar. They were bigger than the aliens had expected. Each ship carried heavy weapons. Their engines burned hot, moving fast toward the planet. Inside the Galactic Council Hall, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. Guards ran to their positions. High Chancellor Zorvac stood, frozen for a moment. His mind refused to believe it. Impossible, he whispered. But the reality was clear. The humans had come. Admiral Zek barked orders. Activate planetary shields. Scramble all fighters. Ready ground defenses. Across the city, towers opened. Giant cannons pointed toward the sky. Missile launchers came online. Swarms of small fighter ships lifted off the ground, heading into the clouds. But the human ships did not slow down. On board the lead human battleship, Admiral Reyes stood on the command deck. She stared at the holographic display in front of her. Targets locked, her weapons officer said. Fire, Reyes ordered. A wall of light and energy burst from the human ships. Railguns fired solid metal slugs at incredible speed. Plasma beams cut through space. Missiles launched in waves. The alien defense ships scrambled to intercept, but they were too slow. In seconds, 3 alien cruisers exploded, pieces of metal, and fire rained down onto the planet's surface. On the council hall screens, the alien leaders watched in horror as their defense fleet burned. Impossible, Zorvac said again. Lady Velra's hands trembled. How did they build ships like that? We never saw this before. They've been hiding, Admiral Zek growled. Building in secret. Preparing for this, General Krell shouted. Send everything. We have. Stop them before they reach the surface. More alien ships launched. Hundreds of fighters. More cruisers. Even an old battleship joined the defense line. But the humans kept coming. On the ground, anti-air guns fired. Missiles streaked into the sky. Some hit human ships, causing small explosions. But the human fleet was too large, too fast, too powerful. First human landing ships broke through the clouds. Troop carriers, dropships, heavy armored transports. They headed straight for the council city. Inside one of the human dropships, Sergeant Lee checked his weapon. He looked around at his squad. Remember what they did, he said. They attacked our colony, killed families, burned our towns. The soldiers nodded. We're not here to talk, Lee continued. We're here to remind them what humans do when pushed. The dropship shook as enemy fire hit its shields, but it kept going. Below, alien ground troops formed defense lines. Tanks rolled into position. Energy turrets powered up. The first human dropships landed hard on the council plaza. Ramp doors opened. Human soldiers stormed out, firing immediately. The aliens fired back. Plasma shots lit up the air. Explosions rocked the streets. Buildings shook, but the humans advanced like a storm. They moved quickly. They worked as one unit. Every shot was deadly. Sergeant Lee led his squad through the main gate of the council complex. Push forward, he shouted. An alien tank turned, its gun toward them. Lee's team didn't wait. They fired a rocket. The tank exploded in a ball of flame. On the council balcony above, the leaders watched the battle unfold below them. They're here, on the ground already. Lady Velra gasped. General Krell grabbed a rifle from a guard. We fight here. They won't take this hall. But Zorvac knew it was too late. In space, the human fleet still rained fire on the remaining alien ships. More human soldiers landed with each minute. Inside the council hall, emergency doors slammed shut. Guards set up barricades. But from outside the door, the sound of heavy footsteps grew louder. A loudspeaker crackled. This is Admiral Reyes, the human voice said. Surrender now. Lay down your weapons, or we will come through that door. Zorvac, face twisted with fear and anger. Never, he hissed. The humans didn't wait. A breaching charge blew the doors apart. Smoke filled the room. Human soldiers poured inside, weapons ready. The first firefight inside the council hall lasted only 30 seconds. By the end, alien guards lay on the floor. Council members ducked behind chairs, too scared to move. Sergeant Lee stood in the center of the hall, his rifle smoking. We have control, he said into his radio. A moment later, Admiral Reyes walked in. Her uniform was clean, her face calm. She looked at the alien leaders. You laughed at us, she said. You thought we were weak. Now, you'll listen. Zorvac tried to stand, but his legs shook. What do you want? He asked. Reyes smiled coldly. This is just the beginning, she said. Your fleets, your armies, your pride. It all burns today. Tomorrow we talk about surrender. She turned to her soldiers. Secure the prisoners, she ordered. The humans moved quickly, handcuffing the alien leaders. General Krell tried to fight back, but 3 soldiers tackled him to the ground. Outside the hall, more human dropships landed. More soldiers spread through the city. Alien citizens hid in their homes, afraid to look outside. High above, the Terran flag appeared on the council building's main screen. A simple message blinked under it. You mocked us. Now you learn. Admiral Reyes stood at the balcony, looking over the burning city below. She spoke into her radio again. Phase 1. Complete. The sky stayed red for hours. The first fire had begun. High above the council planet, space was still burning. Wreckage of alien ships floated in orbit. Pieces of broken hulls drifted like dead leaves in the wind. Fires still burned inside some of the wrecks, glowing orange against the blackness of space. The once powerful fleets of the Galactic Council were gone. Inside his damaged battleship, Admiral Zek struggled to stand. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead. The air smelled like smoke and burning wires. Report, he shouted, coughing. A young officer turned from her console. Her hands shook. We've lost over 70% of the fleet, Admiral. Communications are down. Weapons are offline. Shields gone. Zek clenched his jaw. And the human fleet, they barely took damage. Sir, Zek's heart sank. This was worse than any battle he had seen. The council fleets had outnumbered the humans 2-1, but the human ships had fought like demons. Their weapons were faster, their targeting systems more accurate, and their ships, they could take hits that would destroy most other vessels. How is this possible? Zek whispered to himself. On the human flagship, Admiral Reyes stood on her bridge. She watched the alien wreckage spinning on the screens. Status? He asked at her second-in-command. Commander Holt smiled. Enemy fleets broken. Most survivors are retreating. Some are trying to hide in nearby asteroid field. Reyes nodded. Send hunter squadrons after them. I want no survivors. Yes, Admiral. Reyes crossed her arms and stared at the main screen. This is what happens, he said softly, when you push humanity too far. Back on the council planet, the city still burned. Human ground forces had taken control of the main government buildings. Patrols moved through the streets, looking for pockets of resistance. Inside a dark bunker, General Krell sat with bruises on his face and rage. In his eyes, 2 human soldiers stood guard at the door. Nearby, High Chancellor Zorvac sat silently. His head hung low. Lady Velra cried softly in a corner. The once mighty council leaders were now prisoners. Suddenly, a small screen on the bunker wall lit up. It showed Admiral Reyes. I'm sure you can hear me, she said. Your fleets are broken, your armies are defeated. The council city is under human control. Her voice grew cold. You will now discuss surrender terms. If you refuse, we will begin orbital bombardment. Your cities, your people, all of it, gone. Zorvac closed his eyes. General Krell roared in anger. We will never surrender. Reyes smiled on the screen. You don't have a choice. Outside, human artillery was being moved into position. At the same time, human starships in orbit turned their weapons toward other council cities on the planet. A single order from Reyes, and the skies would rain fire again. Far away from the council planet, on a moon near the outer rim, a small group of surviving alien admirals held an emergency meeting. They sat around a cracked table inside a half-destroyed outpost. Admiral Vorek of the Zorvac fleet slammed his fist on the table. Must respond. Call every remaining ship. Gather reinforcements. We'll take back the council planet. Another admiral shook his head. We don't have enough ships left. The humans, they destroyed everything. Then call our allies, Vorek shouted. There are still other council worlds. We can make a new fleet. But fear filled the room. We've already sent messages, a communication officer said softly. No answers. The humans, they are moving fast, too fast. The admirals fell silent. Everyone knew the truth. The humans weren't stopping. After taking the council planet, they would come for the next system, then the next and the next. Back on the human flagship, Admiral Reyes received a new report. Ma'am, Commander Holt said, our scout ships found another alien fleet hiding near the Nabari belt. Reyes narrowed her eyes. Are they gathering to launch a counterattack? Possibly. At least 20 ships. Reyes smiled coldly. Good, she said. Let them gather. She turned to her operations officer. Ready the 2nd and 3rd. Battle groups will strike before they finish organizing. Yes, Admiral. The humans moved quickly, within hours. 2 full human fleets jumped to the Nabari belt. The alien admirals barely had time to react. As soon as the humans arrived, they opened fire. The space battle was brutal and short. Missiles streaked through the dark. Laser beams cut across shields. Railgun slugs punched through holes. The alien ships tried to run, but the humans chased them down one by one. By the end of the battle, no alien ship remained. Admiral Vorak's ship was the last to fall. His final words before his ship exploded were broadcast across several council frequencies. "Run, the humans. They're coming for all of us." Word spread quickly across the galaxy. On distant council worlds, fear grew. Leaders who had once mocked the humans now sent messages begging for peace. But Admiral Reyes didn't answer them. Inside her command room, she prepared the next attack plans. Her eyes burned with focus, her voice remained cold and steady. "Next, target Valoran system," she said. Her officers nodded. On the ground, Sergeant Lee stood with his squad at the edge of the council city. He looked at the distant mountains, where smoke still rose. One of his soldiers, Private Chen, walked up. "Sergeant, do you think this war will end soon?" Lee shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "not yet." He looked at the burning sky. This was just the beginning. The human fleets turned toward their next destination. The galaxy trembled. Broken fleets marked the fall of council power, and the rise of human revenge. The Valoran system was beautiful. 7 planets orbited a bright yellow star. 2 of the planets had green forests and blue oceans. Cities stretched across continents. Towers touched the clouds. Giant space docks floated in orbit. Valoran was one of the council's richest trade hubs. Thousands of ships came and went every day. Cargo freighters, luxury liners, military patrols. But now, the space lanes were empty. The people of Valoran watched the news with fear. They had seen the reports. The council planet had fallen. The fleets were broken. The humans were coming. Inside the Valoran Defense Command Center, General Avik stood in front of a large tactical screen. "We still have 50 ships in this system," he told his officers, "and planetary shields at full power." His voice was loud and confident, but inside, he felt cold. "Plus, we've received new heavy cannons from the Zorvak armories," one officer said. Another added, "and ground forces are ready. Troops, tanks, air support. If the humans try to land here, they'll face a real fight." General Avik nodded. "We'll show them that Valoran is no easy target." But far above, hidden behind the moon, the human fleet was already watching. On board her flagship, Admiral Reyes studied the enemy positions on her display. She stood with arms crossed, her face calm. "Valoran has better defenses, Commander," Holt said beside her. "Stronger shields. More ships than the council planet had." Reyes nodded slowly. "They're overconfident," she said. "They think we'll attack the same way." Commander Holt smiled. "We won't." "Right." Reyes gave a thin smile. "No, this time, we'll strike from above and below." She turned to her operations officer. "Deploy stealth ships. Send them under the planetary shields." "Yes, Admiral." In deep space, small human stealth vessels moved silently toward Valoran. They slipped past enemy sensors. They moved low, flying close to the planet's surface. Their mission: disable shield generators from the inside. At the same time, in orbit, human battleships powered up their main guns. The Valoran defense fleet spotted them and scrambled. "All ships, battle stations." General Avik shouted. The alien ships rushed to intercept. The sky above Valoran filled with laser fire and missiles. Human and alien ships collided in brutal dogfights. The Valoran defense cannons opened fire, sending beams of energy slicing through space. One human frigate took a direct hit and exploded. The alien officers cheered, but Admiral Reyes didn't flinch. "This is all part of the plan," she said softly. On the planet's surface, the stealth teams reached their targets. Small squads of human soldiers attacked shield control stations, silenced rifles, close combat, explosions inside bunkers. One by one, the shield generators went dark. Inside the Valoran Defense Center, alarms blared. "Sir, shield sectors 4 and 7 are down," an officer shouted. "What?" General Avik turned pale. "How?" Another report came in. "Multiple explosions at shield hubs. Intruders detected." Avik slammed his fist on the table. "Send ground troops. Find them. Kill them." But it was too late. From orbit, Admiral Reyes gave the order: "All ships, concentrate fire. Target exposed sectors." The human battleships opened up with full force. Railgun slugs smashed into the planet's surface. Plasma beams cut through city towers. Missiles streaked down like falling stars. The exposed areas of Veteron turned into fire and smoke. The alien ground troops tried to regroup, but human dropships were already descending. Sergeant Lee led his squad off the first wave of landers. "Move!" each shouted, charging forward. The streets of Velron became a war zone. Alien tanks rolled out from underground bunkers. Human soldiers used guided rockets and air support to destroy them. Private Chen ducked behind a fallen wall, firing at enemy troops. "Sergeant, there's too many of them up ahead." Lee grabbed a grenade launcher. Not for long. He fired into the enemy position. The explosion cleared the way. In the sky, human fighter jets screamed overhead, strafing alien fortifications. General Arvik watched the disaster unfold on his screens. "We're losing control of the capital district," one officer yelled. "Fall back to the command center," Arvik ordered. "We hold there or we die." His troops retreated toward the last defense point. Inside the human fleet, Commander Holt updated Admiral Reyes. "Velron's ground defenses are collapsing. Their fleet is in full retreat." "Good," Reyes said. "Send in the heavy landers." Massive human troop carriers began their descent. Inside one of them sat Titan Division, humanity's elite armored unit. Giant mechs, mobile artillery, advanced hover tanks. When they hit the ground, they brought pure destruction. The final battle for Velron City was quick and brutal. Titan mechs stomped through the streets. Firing cannons, hover tanks rolled over enemy lines. Artillery shells smashed remaining bunkers. By nightfall, the Velron command center was surrounded. General Arvik stood on the roof, looking at the fires burning across his city. An incoming message appeared on his communicator. "Admiral Reyes, this is over," she said. "Surrender now." Arvik stared at the screen. Behind him, his officers stood silent. Slowly, General Arvik lowered his weapon. "We surrender," he said. The human forces entered the command center minutes later. Sergeant Lee's squad was first through the door. Lee looked at the captured general. "Smart choice," he said. "All across Velron, human soldiers secured the last enemy positions." The Terran flag rose above the city center in orbit. Admiral Reyes stood at her window, watching. Commander Holt stepped beside her. "To Council worlds down." "How many left?" Reyes answered without looking away. "Enough to keep going." She turned to her crew. "Prepare the fleet. Next target, the Calrex cluster." The officers moved quickly. The human war machine rolled forward. Velron had fallen. The galaxy watched, terrified, and waiting for where the humans would strike next. The Calrex cluster was different. It was a group of 7 small star systems, filled with military shipyards, weapon factories, and Council training bases. This was where Council warships were built, where Council soldiers were trained, where Council admirals planned new battles. If the humans took Calrex, the Council's last hope for defense would die. Inside the main command station of Calrex Prime, Admiral Dreco stood in front of a large tactical display. His eyes were tired, but full of determination. "We've lost Velron and the Council homeworld," he said to his officers. "But here we make our stand." His voice boomed through the room. "We have hundreds of defense platforms, minefields in space, planetary cannons. This time, the humans will break against us." The officers cheered. In the shipyards, engineers worked day and night, building new cruisers and battleships. Council soldiers loaded weapons and boarded transports. Fighter pilots sat in their cockpits, engines ready. The entire Calrex cluster prepared for war. But far away, hidden behind a gas giant, the human fleet was already waiting. Inside her flagship, Admiral Reyes stared at the Calrex star map. Beside her, Commander Holt read the latest intel report. "They've got at least 150 ships," Holt said, "plus defense stations and minefields around every jump point." Reyes nodded. Double quotes, "Exactly as we expected." Holt raised an eyebrow. "You sound almost happy." Reyes gave a small smile. "They're desperate now, and desperation leads to mistakes." She turned to her operations officer. "Ready the 1st and 2nd fleets, plus the Ghost Division." "Ghost Division, Admiral?" Holt asked. Reyes' eyes narrowed. "We'll show them what real fear looks like." In the dark of space, human stealth cruisers moved first, using cloaking fields and sensor jammers. They slipped past Council early warning systems. Their mission: disable the outer sensor arrays. One by one, the Council's deep space listening posts went silent. Admiral Dreco's noticed the blackout, sent scout ships. "I want to know what's happening out there." But before the scouts could launch, the human fleet arrived. Without warning, hundreds of Terran ships jumped into Calrex space. The sky lit up with weapons fire, railguns, plasma beams, missile swarms. The Council defense platforms opened fire immediately. Massive laser cannons blasted through space. Mines exploded, ripping through the first wave of human fighters. But the humans didn't stop. They kept coming. Human battleships charged forward, soaking up hits, returning fire with double the fury. In the chaos, the Ghost Division made its move. Using cloaked drop pods, they landed on small moons and space stations behind enemy lines. Small teams of elite human soldiers sabotaged power cores and hacked communication hubs. Suddenly, half the Council's defense grid went offline. Admiral Drekos roared in anger. "Find those saboteurs, kill them, bring the shields back online." But the damage was done. Human fleets pushed deeper into the cluster. On the surface of Calrex 4, a Council fortress city prepared for invasion. Inside the bunkers, General Torvak rallied his troops. "Remember what they did to Velron," he shouted. "Remember the burning skies over the Council world." His soldiers cheered. Outside, anti-air cannons tracked the skies. But then, the ground shook. Massive human dropships entered the atmosphere. They dropped armored vehicles, mobile artillery, and thousands of troops. Sergeant Lee led his squad out of their transport. "Welcome to Calrex," he said, loading his rifle. Private Chen ran beside him, ducking under enemy fire. "This place is worse than Chen shouted. Lee smiled grimly. "You haven't seen bad yet." Explosions tore through the enemy lines. Human air support screamed overhead, dropping bombs on enemy bunkers. Titan Division mechs stomped across the battlefield, ripping through Council tanks. On another front, Ghost Division soldiers infiltrated the Council command bunker. They planted charges, set traps, and cut off the enemy's escape routes. General Torvak fought to the end when human soldiers broke through his last defense wall. He pulled out his sidearm and charged. Sergeant Lee was the one who shot him down. Lee stood over the fallen general. "Another one who thought they could stop us," Lee said. Back in space, the last Council ships gathered for a final defense. Admiral Drekos stood on the bridge of his flagship. "The Vigilance. All ships, focus fire on the human command vessel. We take down Admiral Reyes, and maybe, just maybe, we survive this day." Dozens of alien ships turned toward the human flagship. They launched everything they had. Missiles, laser beams, heavy plasma, cannons. The human flagship shook from multiple hits. Alarms blared. Commander Holt gripped the edge of his console. "Shields at 30%. But Admiral Reyes stood firm. "Return fire," she said calmly. Her ship's railguns fired massive kinetic slugs to alien cruisers. Exploded instantly. Plasma turrets ripped through enemy frigates. Long-range missile batteries launched swarm after swarm. Still, the Council fleet kept coming. Admiral Drekos ordered a suicide run. "Full speed. Ram their flagship if we have to." His ship, the Vigilance, charged toward Reyes' ship at top speed. Inside the human flagship, Holt's voice rose in panic. "They're coming straight for us." Reyes raised her hand. Fire main cannon. A giant pulse of energy blasted from the Terran flagship's forward gun. It struck the Vigilance at full force. The alien flagship broke apart mid-charge. A fireball filled the screen. Admiral Drekos died without saying another word, with their leader gone. The remaining Council ships broke formation. Some fled. Some were destroyed trying to escape. The space over Calrex fell silent. On the ground, human soldiers cheered as word of victory spread. Sergeant Lee looked at the burning enemy bunkers. Private Chen sat nearby, catching his breath. "Is this really over?" Chen asked. Lee shook his head. "No, this is just another step." Commander Holt stood beside Admiral Reyes on the bridge. "3 Council strongholds down," he said. "We're breaking them." Reyes nodded. "Next, we move to the outer colonies." Holt blinked. "Already?" Reyes looked out at the stars. "We strike while they're still afraid." All across the galaxy, Council worlds received the same terrifying news. Calrex had fallen, and the humans were still coming. The Council's last leaders gathered in secret rooms. Some whispered of peace talks, others of retreat, but deep in human space. More Terran fleets were already mobilizing. The next phase of war was about to begin. The outer colonies were far from the Council's core worlds. Spread across deep space, they were farming planets, mining outposts, and civilian trade hubs. For years, the Council had used them as resource suppliers and training grounds. Now they were the last buffer between the human fleet and the inner Council territories. In a small Council war room on the planet Jovic Prime, Governor Rallock sat with military officers. "They've taken the Council homeworld, Velhung," Kohex, Halak, said, voice trembling. We are next. General Korvik, head of the Outer Colony Defense Forces, slammed his fist on the table. We still have soldiers, we still have ships, we won't run. Ralak looked at him with fear. You're brave, General, but bravery won't stop them. Suddenly, an alarm screamed through the base. Unidentified fleet incoming. The room shook as the first human bombardments hit the outer defense grid. In orbit. The Terran 7th Fleet led the charge. Dozens of human warships appeared from hyperspace. Within seconds, missiles streaked toward defense satellites and enemy cruisers. Inside her flagship, Admiral Reyes watched the battle unfold. Commander Holt stood next to her, holding the latest reports. They were not ready, Holt said, shaking his head. Reyes gave a cold smile. They never are. Below, on Jovic Prime, General Korvik ordered all fighters to scramble. Get our pilots in the air. Bring the ground cannons online. Alien fighter squadrons rose from the surface, racing toward the human fleet, but human interceptors were faster. Sleek Terran fighters weaved through enemy formations, blasting council ships from the sky. Battle over Jovic Prime became a massacre. On the ground, human dropships broke through the weakened defenses. Sergeant Lee led his unit through a burning spaceport. Move, secure the landing zone. Private Chen ducked behind wreckage. They're throwing everything at us. Lee nodded, firing at incoming enemy troops, and it's still not enough. Artillery fire from human hover tanks smashed council bunkers. Sniper teams picked off enemy officers from tall rooftops. Within hours, the city's defenses collapsed. Governor Rallick tried to escape aboard a private shuttle, but human fighters intercepted him mid-launch. His ship exploded before it could leave the atmosphere. Commander Holt reported to Admiral Reyes. Jovic Prime. Secure. Reyes nodded. Next planet. The Terran fleet jumped again, this time Uric 4, a mining colony. The Council tried to regroup, sending small fleets from nearby systems, but human warships destroyed them before they could even reach orbit. On Uric 4, miners grabbed old rifles and joined the defense. Civilians became fighters, but human soldiers moved with brutal efficiency. Sergeant Lee's team breached a mining control station. Inside, they found enemy soldiers and terrified workers. Ordered his squad to hold fire. We're not here to kill civilians, he said. Let them surrender. Some council workers dropped their weapons. Others tried to fight and died within seconds. By nightfall, Uric IV fell too, planet by planet. The outer colonies burned. Zarnok VII, gone. Hekra base, captured. Lovis Point, surrendered without a fight. Across the council's communication networks, panic spread. One council leader, Minister Valrock, sent a desperate message to all council worlds. Evacuate the outer systems. Retreat to the inner ring. The humans are unstoppable in secret bunkers. Council leaders argued. Should we ask for peace? One asked. Another shouted. They won't stop. Peace is impossible. On the human side, morale was high. In the Terran fleet mess hall, soldiers laughed and shared stories. Private Chen sat with other troops, showing off a cracked helmet. This one's from Jovic Prime, he said proudly. Enemy sniper almost got me. Another soldier raised a drink. To the next victory, they cheered. Sergeant Lee sat quietly, cleaning his rifle. He had seen too much death to celebrate, but he knew one thing. The humans weren't stopping. Now, back on her flagship, Admiral Reyes held a meeting with her top commanders. We've cleared the outer colonies, she said. Commander Holt pointed at the star map. The enemy's inner defense ring is next. Their final line. Reyes nodded. The Council will throw everything they have at us there. Holt grinned. Good, let them. Admiral Reyes stood and faced her officers. Prepare the fleet. Repair. Reload. Rest your soldiers. Because when we strike next, her voice grew low and cold, we finish this. Far away, in the inner council territories, fear turned into pure terror. Refugees from the outer colonies arrived with horror stories. Entire cities turned to ash. Fleets wiped out in minutes. A single phrase repeated across council channels. The humans are coming. The council's inner worlds prepared for what everyone now feared. The final battle, the inner ring, was the council's last wall, a line of heavily armed planets and space fortresses circling the final council worlds. This was where the council had built its biggest weapons, its largest fleets, its deadliest defenses. If the humans broke this ring, the council would fall. Inside the war room on Fortress Vira, High Admiral Sarok stood over a giant holographic star map. Red warning lights blinked everywhere, planet after planet. Lost, colonies burned, outer fleets destroyed. Sarek's face was pale, but his voice stayed strong. "We hold here," he said to his commanders. "If the humans break through, there will be nothing left." Generals and admirals around him nodded. Fortress Vera activated its planetary shields. Ion cannons charged. Thousands of council ships gathered in tight formation. Space mines filled the nearby sectors. This would be the biggest battle in council history. Across the system, civilian transports rushed to evacuate. Families cried, children screamed, but everyone knew there was no safe place left. Far across space, the human fleet prepared to. Inside her flagship, Admiral Reyes addressed her officers. "This is it," she said. "The final wall between us and total victory." Commander Holt looked serious. "We've analyzed their defenses. It's bad. Minefields, fortress cannons, over 200 warships." Reyes smiled faintly. "I wouldn't want it easy." Holt pointed at the map. "If we hit the northern sector, we'll face fewer guns." But Reyes shook her head. "No. We go straight through the center, full force. Show them there's nowhere to hide." The Terran fleet jumped in. In an instant, the calm of space turned into a nightmare. The first wave of human dreadnoughts charged forward, shields glowing from heavy hits. Council cruisers fired. Massive plasma volleys. Ion beams tore through the blackness. Explosions flashed like lightning storms. Sergeant Lee and his unit were on board a landing ship, waiting to drop. Chen sat beside him, strapping his helmet tight. "This is worse than Calrex," Chen said. Lee nodded. "And it's going to get worse before it gets better." The dropships shook as enemy fire ripped through the sky. One ship beside them exploded, turning into a fireball. But Lee's transport made it. They crashed onto the surface of Vera's moonbase, where ground defenses controlled much of the fleets. Orbital cannons. Lee's team charged out, moving fast under heavy fire. "Disable those guns," Lee shouted. His squad fought room by room. Explosions shook the corridors. Council soldiers fought hard, but the humans pushed forward, back in space. The Ghost Division struck again. Cloaked ships slipped behind enemy lines. Small teams of saboteurs boarded Council battleships, planting bombs in engine rooms. Suddenly, 5 Council ships exploded in sequence. Admiral Sarek watched the disaster from his command screen. "They're inside our ships," he roared. "Cut off all docking bays. Lock all out." But the Ghost teams had already done their damage. Meanwhile, Terran heavy cruisers moved in, breaking Council lines. Commander Holt reported, "We've punched a hole through Sector 3. Admiral Reyes gave her next order. "Send in the second wave full assault." Missile swarms filled space. Human railguns shattered enemy shields. Council carriers tried to launch more fighters, but were picked off mid-launch. Below, on the moon base, Lee's squad reached the main control room. With a final grenade blast, they destroyed the defense command center. Planetary guns went silent. Now the main planet was exposed. Admiral Sarek had no choice. "All remaining ships, pull back to planetary orbit. We make our last stand above Vera." The human fleet followed. Close-range dogfights filled the skies. Council battleships rammed Terran destroyers. Human boarding parties jumped onto enemy hulls with magnetic boots, blasting doors open with breaching charges. On the bridge of her flagship, Reyes stood tall. "Bring the main cannons online," she said. The Terran flagship's main railgun rotated, charged, and fired. One enemy dreadnought split in half, debris scattering across the atmosphere. On the surface, Council civilians watched a burning sky. Fathers held their children, mothers cried, all of them knowing the end was near. Council officers sent a last desperate message to their homeworld. "Vera will fall. There's nothing we can do to stop them." Inside his damaged flagship, Admiral Sarak made one final order: "Prepare for ground invasion. Arm every soldier, every citizen. We fight until the last breath." Sergeant Lee's unit prepared to drop again. Chen checked his ammo. "Another landing?" he asked. Lee nodded. "We take the fortress tonight." As the human landers descended, the final defense of the inner ring began. And deep in human command, Admiral Reyes sent one message across the Terran fleet: "This is our final push. No retreat, no mercy. We finish what we started." The sky over Vera burned bright with explosions, and the human war machine kept moving forward. The Council's last wall was cracking. The end was near. The Council homeworld Sarakas had always been peaceful. Tall towers reached into blue skies. Parks stretched between government buildings. Council leaders walked calmly through marble halls. But now, everything was different. Air raid sirens screamed across the capital city. Civilians ran to shelters. Military trucks rolled through the streets. Above the planet, the human fleet had arrived. The sky was full of dark shapes, Terran battleships, carrier groups, heavy cruisers. From orbit, the humans opened fire. Massive railgun slugs crashed into planetary shields. Missile storms fell like rain. Defense platforms tried to respond, but the Terran Ghost Division had already sabotaged half of them days before. Inside the Council's Grand Assembly Hall, the remaining leaders gathered for one last emergency meeting. Councillor Vetros, the oldest member, stood and shouted, "We must open talks, send a message for peace." But Councillor Sharak, commander of the Homeworld Defense, slammed his fist on the table. "There is no peace," he growled. "We've mocked them, lied to them, betrayed them now. They want revenge." Another councillor cried out, "Then what do we do?" Sharak stared at the holographic map of the human fleet. "We fight." On the front lines, Council soldiers prepared for ground invasion. Anti-air batteries locked onto the sky. Snipers took positions on tall buildings. Civilians were given rifles and told to defend their homes. But in orbit, Admiral Reyes gave a final order: all landing units go. Thousands of human drop pods launched at once. Like a deadly storm, they broke through the atmosphere. Sergeant Lee's unit hit the ground first. Smoke and fire filled the streets. "Move. Take the west sector," Lee shouted. Private Chen ran beside him, shooting at enemy soldiers hiding behind barricades. Missiles from human gunships blasted enemy vehicles. Titan Division mechs walked down main streets, crushing enemy tanks under their feet. Council troops tried to hold positions, but the human soldiers moved too fast. Block by block, street by street, the capital city fell. Inside the main defense tower, Councillor Sharak stood with his last guards. When human troops stormed a building, he fought back with a plasma rifle in his hands. Sergeant Lee himself led the final charge up the tower steps. When Lee reached the top floor, he found Sharak waiting. The two exchanged fire. Sharak landed a hit on Lee's shoulder, but Lee didn't stop. With one last shot, Lee dropped the council commander. Breathing heavily, Lee stood over the fallen leader. "It's over," Lee said. All over the city, the council's defenses collapsed. White flags appeared in windows. Council soldiers dropped their weapons and surrendered. From orbit, Commander Holt reported to Admiral Reyes, "The city is ours." Reyes nodded slowly. "Signal all to units, full occupation, begin stabilization." For the first time in history, the Council homeworld was under human control. The remaining Council members were rounded up and arrested. Councillor Varos sat inside a dark cell, head in his hands. He whispered to himself, "We should have listened. We should have never mocked them." On the streets, Terran soldiers patrolled, making sure no enemy resistance remained. Civilians sat quietly, staring at the human flags now flying over government buildings. In the Terran fleet headquarters, Admiral Reyes recorded a final message to the people of Earth. "The war is over. The Council has fallen. We are victorious." Cheers erupted across human colonies. On Earth, celebrations began. Cities lit up. Families hugged their returning soldiers. Children waved Terran flags. Sergeant Lee sat in a field hospital, getting his shoulder bandaged. Chen sat beside him, smiling. Weakly, "We did it," Chen said. Lee nodded. "Yeah, we did." Commander Holt walked through the streets of Syracuse, seeing the damage, the broken towers, the people in fear. He turned to Reyes. "What happens now?" he asked. Reyes stared. "At the horizon, we rebuild," she said softly. Our way far above, Terran ships circled the Council homeworld. The stars now belonged to humanity. And somewhere deep in space, other alien civilizations watched silently. They had heard the stories. They had mocked the humans too. But now they stayed quiet, because across the galaxy, one truth had become clear. You don't mock humanity. You don't start a war with Earth, because when the humans come, the sky burns.